there are two things that I consider myself an expert on: college admissions, which is my career, and pop culture, which is my guilty pleasure. So in March of 2019, when a news alert popped up on my phone with Felicity Huffman and Lori Loughlin among dozens charged in college admissions scandal, I thought for a second that somehow the things I'm most familiar with, or at least care the most about, had gotten mixed up in this bizarre algorithm to become my own personal clickbait. Unfortunately, the story was true. As of now, 50 people have been charged, mostly with bribing exam administrators of tests like the SAT to facilitate cheating, or with bribing athletic coaches or university administrators to nominate unqualified applicants as recruited athletes. Now, there have only been 8 colleges named in the scandal, 8 out of more than 5,000 in the country, whose selective admission practices have inspired families to commit illegal activity. Of those 8 colleges, and we talk about the selectivity of those colleges, what we're really talking about is admission rates. So an admit rate is of the percentage of students out of thousands and thousands who actually apply to that college, what percent is actually admitted. The lower admit rate, the more selective a college. So anyways, back to the scandal. Of those 8 colleges, more than half had an admit rate below 12%. But 80% of American colleges admit more than half of their applicants. I often find that students and families can be fixated on colleges that aren't a realistic option for most students. And as a society, we're not really helping with that. Let me give you another example based on this overlap of my personal and professional interest. Tony Stark, also known as Iron Man, the lead character in some of the top grossing films of the past decade, well, everyone knows that he went to MIT. Admit rate, 7%. In the television show The Office, which it seems like this entire generation of teenagers has binge-watched on Netflix, The Office is constantly highlighting the alma mater of Andy Bernard, Cornell. Admit rate, 10%. In Gilmore Girls, which I watched when I was in high school, Rory Gilmore applies to and is admitted to only 2 colleges, Harvard and Yale. Admit rate, 5%. In fact, the admissions scandal was nicknamed Operation Varsity Blues, based on the movie where the lead character is obsessed with attending Brown University. Admit rate, 6%. If you remember one thing I say, it should be the selectivity of a college does not equal the quality of an education. But the colleges that we tend to celebrate, highlight in pop culture, or in a worst case scenario, commit fraud to try to get our child admitted to, are often colleges that are unrealistic options for most students. In my job, some of the toughest conversations I've had are with students who were not admitted to their dream college. But was it really their dream college if it didn't recognize how great they were? Why have we trained our brains to think of colleges like someone playing hard to get? Would you want to date someone who wasn't into all the great stuff you have going on? If someone told you they would only love you if you played soccer, but you had never even kicked a ball, would you Photoshop pictures of yourself scoring the winning goal? That actually happened in the scandal, a lot of athletic Photoshop. Should you change yourself just to be accepted by someone? Why value a college that doesn't admit you? These should be rhetorical questions. But here's the thing. We know that in college admissions and also in love, playing hard to get actually works. In 2011, there was a study conducted by Aaron Whitchurch, Timothy Wilson, and Daniel Gilbert. Basically, they showed college-age women Facebook profiles of men, and they told them that these men either liked them a lot, liked them an average amount, or felt uncertain about their feelings. Guess which men the women were most interested in? Yes, the ones who felt uncertain. Do you know what else feels uncertain? The current state of college admissions, and pretty much everything else right now. So I wrote this speech in the winter of 2020 with plans to deliver it in March. And at the time, we were in a national conversation about the cost of college and student loans and whether the admissions process is favored towards wealthy families who can afford to provide their son with opportunities that might make them more attractive to a college, or can afford to pay $15,000 to rig their daughter's SAT scores. A lot's happened since then. Those conversations are still relevant, but colleges are also talking about how to keep students on campus and healthy. College admissions offices recognize that due to the pandemic, most students haven't had the opportunity to take many SAT or ACT tests, if any at all, and they're waiving that requirement to apply. Lori Laughlin was recently sentenced to 2 months in prison. And high school students are still trying to decide and figure out which colleges to apply to, but without the opportunity often to visit these campuses. Maybe they're not at school in person with resources to help them figure this out. They might be relying on what they already know about these colleges. And how do we learn a little bit about colleges? Well, we hear their name in the news, or we hear their name on a movie screen or on the television, or we hear about them through rankings. Now, some of the best known college rankings are through U.S. News. They rank colleges across the country on about 15 different areas of academic quality. However, 2 of those areas of quality are the college's perceived reputation by others and how many students they deny each year. Now, we know that this selectivity and uncertainty can certainly fuel attraction, but there has to be some level of perceived interest to fall in love with a person or with a college. If you've ever lived with a high school student, you know that seemingly out of nowhere, your mailbox starts filling up with college brochures. That's because when students take the PSAT in about 10th or 11th grade, the College Board, the company that owns the PSAT, buys test takers' names and information, or sells test takers' names and information to colleges. And then colleges, after buying that information, use that information to start recruiting students. Now, I worked at a college for 8 years. I certainly understand that colleges are working to build these freshman classes, and they're trying to increase the academic quality and increase the diversity of the students applying. And they can't know, based on some initial testing information, whether or not they would actually admit the student. So what happens? Students get information about a college, telling them to apply or to visit. They know that college is hard to get into, which makes them even more interested. So they apply. They're not admitted, and then the college has the distinction of denying more students than ever before. Now, I want to be clear that no college admissions office or no college counselor was ever part of the scandal. In fact, I'm not really blaming colleges. I'm blaming you. We need to start thinking differently about what makes a good college good. Is it because it denied 90% of its applicants? Or is it because it's offering opportunities for students to grow into the best version of themselves? When you hear about the student who applied to all 8 Ivy League colleges and was admitted, which is a college list that actually makes very little sense if a student is really being thoughtful about what type of college might be a specific good fit for them. Well, anyways, are you more impressed with that student than your nephew who applied to a local regional university, admit rate 74%, because it was a good fit for him academically, socially, and financially? As adults, we're just as bad about this playing hard to get as teenagers, maybe worse. How many times have you become more interested in a job or a person or an opportunity when you found out it was going to be a little bit harder to get than you originally thought? I have a confession. When I found out that I was selected to talk at TEDxGreenville, I was elated. And then I thought, well, I wonder how many people actually applied. The point is not whether or not this was a selective process, which it was, but that I should be honored that I had this opportunity, that someone recognized something that I wanted to offer, and I can stand here today. The Gallup-Purdue Index, which is the largest representative study of American college students in United States history, released something called the Big Six College Experiences in 2015. These are the experiences most closely aligned with students feeling prepared for life after college. Spoiler alert, these experiences prove that it's not so much where you go to college, but what happens once you get there. These were experiences like I had a professor who cared about me as a person, or I had the opportunity to become very involved in a student organization, or I had a job or an internship that allowed me to apply what I learned in the classroom. These experiences were not, I went to a college that denied most of my friends, or my parents felt very smug when they tell their neighbors that I'm attending this elite institution. So parents, let's talk about you for a second. If you tell your child that the only way they'll get into a good college is by taking a class that they hate, or if you encourage them to apply to a bunch of highly selective institutions just to see if you get in, then what you're saying is who you truly are isn't good enough, and something's only worth having if it's practically unattainable. Also, here's a suggestion: don't commit fraud to try to get your child admitted to college. Support them through the process, but let them take it on their own and be proud of them no matter what. Because the name brand of the college that your child attends is not a reflection of you or your parenting. Now, in my job, I strongly believe that students should be challenging themselves. That means taking higher level courses. That means trying out new activities or hobbies. And yes, that means applying to a college that might be a reach for them. But as a high school student, the choices you make about how you spend your time, inside and outside of the classroom, should be about what makes you feel like the best version of you, not what makes you feel like this ideal college applicant. I sometimes find that students who've been admitted to wonderful colleges are fixated on the one college where they weren't admitted, as if that college is more worthy or carries more weight than the colleges that have accepted them, have a place for them on campus, have offered them scholarships. Have you ever known someone who was stuck on a relationship that clearly wasn't right for them? There's no such thing as the one that got away when it comes to a college. There are plenty of colleges out there who will accept students as they are without falsifying SAT scores, without photoshopping themselves onto a crew team. And there's a lot of people out there who will love you just the way you are. I guess what I'm trying to say is your dream college isn't the one who won't admit you, and the perfect person for you isn't asking you to change. College, and to a greater extent life, is about finding the people and the places that accept the real you. Students need to know that their destiny is not tied to a dream that's only achievable if they try to change themselves. We should love and accept college applicants just as they are, and know that their dream college is one who will do the same. Thank you.